Welcome to Reroute Reflections, where we share our thoughts and insights about relationships, wellness, and business. We're your hosts, Becca and Andrew. We've been married for 10 years and have plenty of knowledge and experience in our relationship, the wellness industry, and the business world. Grab a coffee and let's chat.
Hello, everybody.
Hello. Welcome to episode 8.
Episode 8. Wow.
We're quite behind in recording our podcast. Let's start with that.
Today is April 20th.
Saturday.
Happy April 20th.
Oh, yeah.
To those who
Celebrate.
know what I mean.
Yeah.
Hint, hint. Wink, wink.
But also this episode specifically is supposed to come out Monday. So
yeah, we're a bit behind.
We
did start it, but like 4 weeks ahead of schedule. We had 4 weeks worth of recording when we started this thing, and then slowly we started to get closer and closer to recording the weekend of.
Yeah, because we were like, oh, we're ahead. We can take a break this weekend. And then it happened a couple times, and now we're here.
Yeah. It's funny listening back to podcasts as like the weeks progress. And you're like, you can kind of start to see us like lose the steam that we had.
Losing steam, yeah.
Yeah. But I think that's in keeping with today's, episode.
I actually did get help with this topic from my therapist this week. I was just talking about how I was feeling completely exhausted from working full time, from having to study all weekend, from all the things that we have on the go, and we're doing the podcast, and I think it's just catching up with us. And so it was funny because my therapist had said, why don't you make the episode this week about that and just keep it short and sweet and just be honest. And I was like, you know what? That's a great idea.
Yeah, it is a great idea. And we were struggling about what to talk about this week. I think we did have some ideas, but also I think this is like raw because it's something that both of us are experiencing at the same time. And I think it was worth us bumping that topic to talk about, burnout today. Because I think it's one of those things that I feel like came to like normalcy.
Normalcy?
That's the one. During COVID, because I think that's where a lot of people at the same time experienced elements of burnout. And so I remember that was kind of like everyone was talking about it. And I got feeling burnt out, rightfully so. There was a lot going on at the time, both personally and professionally. And so, I think everyone started to understand what that was. I think I experienced it myself during COVID, this idea of just feeling exhausted, but with a combination of like not being motivated to do what it is that you found joy in doing before. You're just like, I'm just done.
Yeah. And
that was it.
I've even been just like sharing with my colleagues too at work. It's like I come home from work, and especially after doing my really horrible commute now, I'm literally ready for bed, like as soon as I get home. Like sometimes I don't even have the energy to eat dinner, and I'm like, that is not good.
like this
I shouldn't
this week.
be this tired.
Like there was a couple of times this week where you came home and you were sitting on the couch for maybe half an hour, and it was like 5 o'clock or 5:30, and you were ready to go to bed, and you did.
Yeah.
There's definitely a lot going on for you, for sure.
So, should we talk about what happened this week?
Yeah,
a few exciting things happened this week.
Yeah, let's do that. Let's keep
Before
that.
we get too deep into it.
Yeah. So this week was pretty good overall. I felt like the week was pretty slow. I remember it was like Tuesday, and I was just like, oh my god, is this week over yet? Like,
it went by like really slowly.
Yeah, it did. Yeah, it did feel that way. And I did feel like every day I was just like, oh, like I don't want to do anything today.
Yeah.
And I like I said, I felt like this before, just before I took some time away from work. But just that feeling of just not feeling motivated and just feeling like I think the issue that I'm finding is I'm busy, but is anyone looking at the stuff I'm doing?
Right.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Like, what's the impact?
Right. And so that's the piece that I'm kind of struggling with right now. And then also feeling like, do I want to look for new work? Do I want to stick things out because it's consistent, even though it may not be sexy kind of work. It's work that pays the bills sort of things. And it's guaranteed and that kind of thing. So, I just feel like that's kind of where my head's at. And I'm also feeling I don't have the cognitive capacity to think too much into that.
Right.
And so I'm just kind of staying with the status quo. which I feel like is not the best decision for me, especially as a solopreneur. So,
But you
it's
also
tough.
like can't put that pressure on yourself because there's a reason why we got to this level of burnout. It's because you're such like an overachiever all the time, and
Yeah.
you're pushing yourself to do so many things all at once that it's you never allow yourself the time to have a week or two where you're like, you know what, I'm gonna do the basics, I'm gonna chill this week,
Yeah.
because then you like beat yourself up all week. But I think we'll kind of get into that later too, about tactics or like things you can do to help prevent burnout in the future. And one of them is like understanding like what those boundaries are and like setting yourself more breaks so that you don't get to this point.
Mm-hmm.
Because like you said, then you're just feeling like cognitively drained.
Mm-hmm. So what about you? What happened this week?
I think I'm having like the same kind of feelings with work where it's just very unpredictable every day. You don't know how many patients you're going to have to see every day. Some days are slower than others. There was one day this week that I had finished seeing everyone I had to by 1:00, and then I'm like, what am I going to do for 2.5 hours?
Mm-hmm.
And then the next day was like crazy busy, and I was like, oh, maybe I'll try and leave at 2:30 because it was a Friday, and I was still there till 3:34, and I was like, oh, never mind. So I think there's part of that. I think for me, the feeling that I'm also getting is I'm loving the work that I do, but having to drag myself out of bed every morning, I'm just like, oh my God, I can't believe I have to get up and go to work again. Like, I'm just so mentally, physically tired.
Mm-hmm.
But an exciting thing that happened this week is we officially got our second car.
Mm-hmm.
So we no longer have to rent a car for us to both get around. And I'm very excited and happy because we bought my dream car, which is a Jeep Wrangler Sahara. And if you don't know, my family knows, but I have wanted a Jeep since I was like 6 years old. And I don't know how to explain it, but it's just a car that I've always like been attracted to. I've always wanted to drive it. And when we were test driving it, like last week or the week before, I was like a little nervous at first to show up and start driving it because I was like, what if I get it? I've never been in a Jeep before. And I'm like, what if I get in it and I hate it? And I've made this whole deal for 30 years of my life being like, I really want a Jeep. And then I go to drive it and I'm like, this is shit. Because I've also heard from like my dad or like other people, and they're like, oh, like it's not very comfortable, it's noisy, blah blah blah. And I'm like, oh no, I never thought about those things, but
Right.
now I've been driving it for a full week to and from work, and honestly I love it. I don't mind that you can hear when it's like extra windy sometimes, because I also just think it's so cool that like the whole roof and all the doors and everything come apart. Like it's
Yeah.
like a transformer. You can just take little pieces off to make it what you want, and
Yeah,
it's so cool.
it is a really cool car. I did get to drive it home from the dealer.
Mm-hmm.
I was not into it, and I feel like that's good, so we're not fighting over it.
I think you also get used to it though. Like the first few times that you drive it, like it is
Yeah.
very much like a boxy car.
Yeah, it felt like what I would feel a tank would feel like driving.
Yeah. And yeah, it's
And
big too.
Yeah, it's big. It's like the turns are, yeah, you feel like you're driving a tank on the road. I honestly can't think of any other way to describe it. That's just what it felt like to me.
But I have to say, after a while of driving it now, like it actually makes turns on like a dime. Like it's very like agile still, even though it's large. And once you get used to like
It's
how
cool.
it works, like
It's a cool car.
yeah.
I just
really,
like you said,
love
the
it.
transformer aspect of it and the culture of the Jeep
Yeah,
Wrangler culture.
That's the other thing. Like Jeep Wrangler people like wave at each other on the road. I got a
special
few
wave.
waves this week, and I was like, oh, I'm like part of this like secret club, and I'm
Yeah,
like,
it's pretty wild.
yeah.
I don't.
It's
Does any
cute.
other car do like any other? I don't think there's any other
I
car
mean,
that does that.
Not that I know of, but I also didn't think about that
Yeah.
before I even got this car. So I feel like unless because you're like in the club, so
Yeah,
to speak,
yeah, it's like a
I
secret
feel
society.
Like you just don't know. And
Yeah, it's pretty cool. Like you also said the thing about the rubber duckies, which I didn't know
yeah.
was a thing.
Apparently, if another Jeep owner thinks your car is like really cool, they'll gift you a rubber ducky of whatever kind, like really cool ones, and then Jeep owners will keep them on their dashboard and collect all these rubber ducks
Yeah,
and then give them to other people. And I'm like, that's really cute. Like,
that's pretty cute.
it's cool. It
That's-
makes me feel part of a new community, and I really like it.
Yeah, honestly, that sounds great. I'm already part of a community that I don't want to belong in, and that's the dog owner community.
Yeah.
So I'm good.
Yeah.
That's a topic for another day. But yeah, I'm very happy that you got a chance to get that car.
And honestly, it's been keeping me going. Like having to do my commute, I'm like excited to leave work to just go be in my Jeep for a while.
Yeah.
Which is like sad, and I hope it lasts because that's the only thing getting me through my terrible commutes right now.
Yeah, I think it will, because I still enjoy like leaving the office and getting in the car and driving
Yeah.
and
Just
being able to
listening to
listen.
music
Yeah, listening to
and
your own music and
podcasts.
yeah, it's a comfortable ride. So I got back my RAV4, which I love. And so I'm very happy to be back into the RAV4. And yeah, it's just me and Luna in that
Yeah.
car, which is great. A lot more space than the Golf that I was renting, so that's really nice. But yeah, I'm really glad that we were able to make that work, because it's been as much my dream as it has been yours ever since we got together. And I found out that was the car that you always wanted. I was like, very soon we'll be in a position where we can get you that. That was always I always knew that was going to be our next car as soon as we were able to afford one. So
Yeah.
and there we go.
There we go.
Yeah, very exciting week.
Yeah.
All right, so you want to dive into the topic?
Let's get it over with.
I know, it's like, we love doing this. It is honestly like a fun thing. If it wasn't fun, we wouldn't do it,
Yeah.
because we don't want this to be just another thing that we do.
And I think like the one thing I had learned again through therapy this week is like, why do we need to make them like hour-long episodes or even 45 minutes? Like, why do we need to make sure they're like perfectly curated? Let's just make them like super honest conversations and like check-ins every week. And
Yeah.
especially because our topics are very broad. Like we're covering relationships, wellness, business. Like we can fit anything into it. So let's
And it doesn't really require a lot of research. Like we try to keep it on topics that we know personally about, or we've gone through it. Even with the business stuff, it's things that I've researched in the past or been really interested in or helped clients with. And I feel like that's just the way I want these podcasts to go, so that it's just more
seamless.
Hearing from our perspective rather than us just regurgitating stuff that you could find on your own.
Yeah.
Yeah. So burnout, it is this physical, emotional, or mental exhaustion, but it's that accompanied with decreased motivation, lowered performance, and just overall negative attitudes towards oneself and others. And that's exactly what I had felt. I don't think I'm there yet, but I do feel like I'm getting there.
Right.
You know what I mean? I was at that point a couple of years ago during COVID, where it was like the things that used to matter professionally, personally, just didn't really matter anymore. And I was just at that point where all I wanted to do is sit on the couch and do absolutely nothing.
Yeah.
Just binge TV. And so I do feel like that sense of, kind of coming back, just because I feel like there's almost like this lack of
Motivation.
lack of motivation, or still trying to find like meaning in the work that I'm doing now since I've rolled off that big project of mine. So I think that's probably a pretty accurate description of what I thought burnout was. I knew the exhaustion part, but I think when you add in that whole coupled with decreased motivation and lower performance, I think that's what separates it from things like depression and stuff like that.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
And I think it is like that fatigue, and it's more than just like your daily like tiredness from general like work things. I think also like the pandemic has really amplified or kind of shortened like that threshold for when you can be burned out, because we're all working from home a lot more. We weren't used to a commute anymore. We didn't have to go out and do a million errands every day all day because everything was shut down. So I think especially now more than ever, a lot of us are not recognizing that threshold for us is shorter. So especially I think that's what I've come to realize is like now having to commute Monday to Friday every day and work full time and then come home, and I still have like responsibilities and things to do, even just like general like having to make dinner, tidy up the house, look after the pets, and then like on the weekends having to study for my exam and like all these things. It's built up to be a lot, and I think we all haven't really recognized how much we were doing before the pandemic.
Mm-hmm.
And then I think, like you mentioned, like having that like apathetic feeling or being like dissatisfied or not looking forward to work is like a second sign or symptom. And it's like on your side, it's just not feeling fulfilled with the work you're doing or understanding like how it's like important at this time. And I think for me it's more of I'm just not looking forward to waking up and going to work every day. Like I enjoy it while I'm there and I like what I'm doing, but it's like that dread of, oh my gosh, it's only Thursday and I still have to wake up and go to work.
Yeah, it's a tough one, and I feel like both of us are very susceptible to burnout. And what I mean by that is I think people who tend to like being busy, just as a personality trait, I like being busy. I'd rather be busy than doing nothing. When I have a day like a Sunday where I'm doing absolutely nothing all day, staying inside the house, I'm going stir crazy a bit.
Yeah.
And for people like that, and I think you're the same, it becomes difficult to differentiate between when you're just in that place of being just like really tired because you're doing so much stuff, and burnout, which is this feeling of you're not just really tired, but you're too exhausted to function, you know?
Yeah. And I think that ties into the last sign and symptom of having a change happen with either like your sleep or like your diet pattern. And I think, as you said, especially for me, like having to sleep more than usual has been like a big change for me. Like even today, we went to a party last night. We got home at a decent time. Well, we got home at like what, midnight? A little bit before that.
Yeah.
I slept until 11:30 today.
Yeah.
And like ever since I started my job where I'm used to being like an early bird now, like I haven't been able to sleep in past maybe 8:30 or 9.
Yeah.
But today I was just like, I couldn't wake up. I was so tired. I was so comfortable. It felt so good.
I'm pretty sure that Uber driver is probably what kept you down like that ride last night.
Oh yeah.
Was...
Side note, that Uber ride was nuts.
That was next level.
The first thing, we get in the car and he starts talking about
how he's a criminal.
Apparently he's a criminal, but everything's okay as long as you don't assault somebody. Like, I could steal your purse or I could steal this and that, and it's okay. Oh, but also if you were to assault me, then that's the crime. And we were like, what the hell is happening right now?
Yeah, it was really weird.
I got really scared for the first 2 minutes.
Yeah.
And then he started talking about like conspiracy theories, and we were like, wait a minute, what?
Yeah.
Are you okay?
It was wild.
It was wild.
I leaned into it though.
Yeah.
I was like...
To be fair, we'd been drinking and
I was
we were having a good time, so we got in, we were like, is this real life?
I was leaning way into it, and I was like... And you're just like... And at first, I was like, I want to toe the line of being respectful, but also having some fun.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, it's midnight. I'm not really into having a huge political discussion right now. Let's just have some fun with it.
He was talking about how like the government is encouraging and making traffic downtown.
Yeah, and I said it was what do they call it? Like in cahoots with the billboard people.
Yeah.
So that we can charge more for billboard space. Because when there's traffic, people have more eyes on the billboards.
Honestly,
so it's a whole conspiracy.
It's hard to explain what happened in that car if you weren't there.
But
we made it home, so that's all that matters.
It was wild, and I loved every minute of it. But that was really exhausting, especially after. I mean, I like people, but I'm like, it's very hard for me to meet new people. It's very like exhausting. Do you know what I mean? And
it was a party where we only knew the birthday boy.
Yeah.
He was the only one we knew. So we had to spend the night like meeting new people.
And
like
they were
just
all
lots of chatting, lots of smiling, and we
and
worked
they were all
all day.
great.
Oh, they were fabulous.
They were such great people.
It was a great group.
It's just for me personally, it's harder for me. And that's why it's always tough like networking and in like the business setting and stuff. I always find going to those events like really difficult because I'm just like you're a loner with a small group and you break off and then you try to go and interrupt a different group. It's just like I feel so awkward. Like I just don't want to do it. Sometimes I'm finding I need to put myself more and more into those situations, and 9 times out of 10 when I do that, the result is great. But there is those 1 out of 10 times where it's like super awkward, and I've had those encounters before, and you're just like, kill me now.
Yeah.
It almost erases all of the other 9 out of 10 times where it's actually went really well. But yeah, that was that was an aside, but I think it was an important one. I feel like that Uber drive last night needed to mention.
Signs, so change in your sleep pattern, change in even your diet patterns. I think again, even for me, I was on a really good habit of making my lunches for a while and making sure to try and eat a breakfast. And I think just like the last week or so, like I just wake up so tired and like the first thing I reach for is coffee, and then and then it decreases your appetite, and then I don't eat breakfast, and then my morning's so busy at work, so then I don't eat till lunch. And please do not do any of these things. As a dietitian, I feel like it's horrible to admit, but even I'm struggling with eating enough food during the day, getting my meals in. And I know that's a big contributor to my exhaustion too, is just literally not getting enough energy in the day.
Mm.
So that's something going into this week, I think I'm really going to make an effort to be better at. I think Sunday I'm going to have to dedicate some time to make all my lunches and things ahead and make sure I have some easy grab and go options for snacks, because I know that eating is gonna help me overcome and get through this burnout period.
Yeah, and I think the thing about burnout that I understand is that unlike things like depression, it's very situational. It's very specific to the environment that you're in, and whereas depression is like more widespread and it incorporates like cycles that you go through, and there's not a lot of, you don't have as much control to get yourself out of that funk.
Right.
Whereas I feel like with burnout, you can actually, if you change your environment and try a few other things to get you out of this funk, you can actually combat the symptoms of burnout way more easily than you could depression. And I think that's where we're at right now. We're in this point where maybe I don't know about you, do you feel like you're in that burnout phase, or do you feel like you're approaching it?
No, I feel like I'm in it.
You're in it. Yeah.
Like just the level of exhaustion that I'm feeling and having those changes to my sleep and like my eating patterns, I'm like, I'm in it, man. Like,
Yeah.
I need to get out.
Yeah. What are you thinking about doing to get yourself out of it?
So, I mean, I had therapy this week, which was
Yeah.
helpful. Even if you don't see a therapist, just having someone that you can talk to about it. I think that's where you and I have like really good communication, and we can talk to each other to say, listen, for this week's podcast, can we just make it like a little more short and sweet, or can we do this and that? I think, like I said, like focusing more on my diet this week to make sure I'm getting that back on track. And I think a few other things that you could also work with are things like practicing mindfulness, like getting in a little more exercise, even if it's just like a walk. I think that also can tie into just building in more breaks through your day. Maybe going on a walk at lunch.
We used to get into that habit of after you came home from work, we would go for a walk right away, and I feel like we haven't done that in months.
And we really should, because of Luna. We should really get in the habit again, especially with the weather being nicer, of
Definitely.
even just taking her around the block. And
yeah, I think I was in the habit of doing two walks during the day, one in the morning before work and one kind of midday. And then you'd come home and we'd do that early evening sort of walk, late afternoon. And so I feel like we need to get back into that. I've done basically a long walk midday with her now. And I do want to get into the habit of doing an early morning walk and a longer afternoon walk. Maybe going to the park and playing fetch or something to really get her energy out. I think would be really helpful for her and for me. Knowing, like, for me, that's definitely something that I'm going to prioritize this week for sure.
Yeah, and I think the after work walk will help a lot too, because as much as it's easy to say, like, build in more breaks to your day, in my role specifically, like in healthcare, like, we just don't have that luxury. The only time I get a break is at lunch, and I'm lucky if I'm not like charting throughout my whole lunch periods. It's just the workload is a lot when you're in that situation, and I don't think it's realistic for me to have more breaks in there. But I think making sure I'm getting outside after work to get that fresh air, get that little walk in.
It's a pull for after work weekends where you have the control, and I feel like it's making sure that you're doing what you need to do to kind of get those breaks.
Yeah.
And recharge before the next day happens.
Yeah. And then I also think like the last thing that can help you get out of it or help prevent it is just understanding that work-life boundary that you need. So even for me, even if I can't build in more breaks throughout my day, like I know for sure, like I am going to leave work every day at 3:30 because I'm always at work before 7:30. And I need to just know that's my boundary. I'm only supposed to be here for 8 hours a day. Like as long as I have all my stuff done. Even charting sometimes can be pushed till the next morning if it has to be, but I'm pretty good at my time management during the day. So I think just prioritizing work and not letting myself stay late.
Yeah.
Because I know I have so many other things to do when I get home. So.
It's really hard to do. I mean, it's obviously this area is a little bit easier for me because I have a lot more flexibility just in the type of work that I do to manage my day and incorporate breaks and stuff. I think one of the things that I've done over the last couple of weeks is really having a strong gym routine. Yeah. Going to the gym 3 times a week, which for me is my goal. But I'd like to, throw in a run every week, so get it to 3 days in the gym and 1 run during the week, I think would be ideal. And this week I'm on track for that. And
Yeah,
I
you
just
did your run this morning.
I did my run this morning, yeah, in the blizzard.
I know.
Yeah.
The weather's very weird today.
I think I hit all types of precipitation.
All the seasons.
Yeah, I got hail, rain. And then I had snow.
Oh my god.
Which was like blizzardy. I was like, oh my god, what is happening right now?
And
it's like
now
hands
it's
down
like...
the worst time of the day to go, because now it's just cloudy. So
well, now if you look behind us, it's like sun and
gray.
clouds. But if I'm looking out the window to my left, it's like really dark skies over
Yeah.
there. It looks really like ominous. But then
I
there's
see that
pieces of
too.
like blue sky. I'm like, it's weird.
yeah, it's been on and off today. I feel like it's gonna happen again. So we should actually, right after this, we gotta take Luna for a walk before.
Yeah, before something crazy happens.
Yeah, honestly. So yeah, like I think I'm in that position where I can go, and I can go off hours too, which is great. So no one likes a busy gym, that.
No, yeah.
So that's good, but I think taking control where you can.
Yeah.
So like if you don't have a lot of that flexibility, like even when I was working full time, I did go to the gym during lunch, and I would take an hour and a half.
Mm-hmm.
I'd come in early, I'd come work in late. So not that I ever was like, okay, 8 hours today, or I got to stay an extra half hour because I came in a half hour late. Like I was never like that. I knew the work that I was supposed to do. I just got it done. And
yeah.
so I never really counted hours like that. But, if you do, I feel like, take that time, it's your time. You'll be more productive at the end of it. And I think most leaders out there will understand that it's important for your mental health and for the overall productivity and just overall wellness and morale of the team to let people do that. So just have that conversation with your manager around, be honest. This is what's happening. This is the situation. And this is how you think you might be able to present yourself better and to avoid things like sick leaves and stuff like that. So, I think it's important to have those open conversations. I think a lot of the times I went through this myself, where I was just always so nervous to ask my manager for these types of things. But every time I did, it always turned out better than I expected. They want to work for you, like with you. Like the last thing they want is you not to talk to them. And then as a result of you not talking to them, things get worse. And then you're out on sick leave for 6-8 months. Do you know what I mean? They want you to be honest with them, and they'll make accommodations for you if you've got a decent leader.
I will say too, that's been one of the good things about the team that I'm working with, like the other dietitians in my office, is we're very good at checking in with each other to say, how's your caseload today? Do you need me to take anybody? And I've done that for some of my colleagues this week to say my day's been pretty, knock on wood, slow. So do you need me to take one of your patients? Like, how's your day looking? And I think that's really important too, like to just check in with the people that you're working with and being willing to either lend a helping hand when you can, and then being able to have that reciprocity, if that's the right word, in return. So even on Friday, one of our colleagues wanted to take the day off. She had some personal things to look after, and me and another dietitian were like, yeah, no problem. Like, just let us know who you need us to look after, and we'll do that, no problem. We'll be your like emergency coverage on your unit. But taking that time off for her, I think, was really important, and we all knew that. So we were like, please take the day off. Don't come in tomorrow. Like, we'll take care of everything for you.
Yeah.
But I think knowing that we have that in return as well is really important. So, yeah.
No, I think that's really important. I think the only other thing I would say is whatever's in your control, try to control it. Do you know? And if it's something as like blocking time in your calendar to do things that you find meaningful, you should do that. I know for myself, I think one of the things that I, want to commit to starting this week is just to really spend some time on some of the fringe stuff that I've always been putting off, like business development type activities, even just updating my website, writing more, just things like that, things that bring me joy and I find meaning in. And it's also a good way to diversify the type of work that you're doing. So you're not just kind of extracting meaning from work that you're doing with your clients or work that you're doing at your job. You're now doing work that's like different. For example, I could just as easily do work on PokéX word stuff as a way to say, okay, things aren't working out here. Maybe I can focus on that, and I can see some meaning in that type of work. So I just always like this idea of when things in one area of my work aren't working out, I can just move on to something else, and hopefully that will to kind of offset, where I'm underperforming in different areas.
Yeah, and I think that's an important distinction to make too, is like, because you have so much work to do, it's easy to be like, oh, I'm just going to switch gears and I'll try doing this work instead. But if you're not finding like that value and that fun in that work you're doing, like you're just going to make the burnout worse.
Yeah.
So I think it's important for you to recognize like, oh, like I am going to switch gears and do more like blog writing or business development, but I've actually been looking forward to doing that stuff and I've just been putting it off
because of other stuff that you feel like should take priority. But
yeah.
But why? You did mention this idea of fun, which I think is like really important, because I think that's what you should be trying to like block time for too.
Yeah,
what
like
is it that you what do you have fun doing? Is it golf? Is it knitting? Is it playing Pokemon like I do? I actually just bought the gold version for Game Boy.
Oh, that's true, yeah.
Which is coming Monday as kind of part of a way to introduce a little bit more fun into my life. Reading, like all those types of things, like actually make sure that you find time to do it and treat it like you would a meeting. You don't skip meetings. Block that time and do it. Like all of these things that I think people will block time, but it's always like the first thing to be pushed is
like
the
personal,
fun stuff.
Yeah.
You got to treat that stuff like it would be a meeting. You would never push a meeting for other work, right? Mm-hmm. You would attend that meeting. And so why is it any different? These things are more important.
Yeah, to maintain your health.
Why are we pushing these
mentally,
things?
Physically, emotionally.
And I'm saying this, I'm talking to you all about this, but I'm talking to myself because I'm the
we're
first to do
pretty
this.
bad at it.
So I'm like, why am I pushing these things? They're more important than the meetings I attend, regardless of how I'm feeling. And yet I'm like, oh, okay, I'll push this hour that I had to like go walk with Luna or just read the paper or whatever. I'm just, now, why am I doing that? So I think it's important. And do it whenever you feel like. If you need to take a break, I think that's really important.
Even if it's 5 minutes, like an hour, like whatever you can fit in, take a break.
Because I think we underestimate what it is that burnout's going to do to you. Like, you literally will feel unmotivated to do anything. Mm-hmm. Like, you'll have, and it's the things that you find joy, like you find joy in and meaning in now, like you will not find value in.
Right.
Like you won't want to do anything. And when you get to that point, it's really hard, right? You've kind of snapped, right? And it's like trying to put the cork back on a champagne bottle.
Yeah,
you know,
that's a good analogy.
Thanks. Like I think that's what you got to think about it as. Mm-hmm. So you just don't want that champagne bottle to pop. And so everything that you can do, taking the breaks now, you might like, oh, it's fine, I can push through. But yeah, you could. But what if you can't? You know, what if that champagne bottle pops?
And I feel like that's why I think I'm in that burnout already, because I'm finding it really hard to stay motivated to do the studying that I need to do, like whether it's on weeknights or even like on the weekends. And it's something that like I can't let it slip though. Like my exam is less than a month away. Like I need to crack down. I need to get stuff done. But finding that motivation to keep going is just incredibly difficult now, because I've let myself get to a point where like I'm experiencing burnout and I'm like, no.
Yeah.
So I think that's why I'm trying all these other tactics now to help alleviate some of that pressure so that I can just keep pushing and get through this next month. And but it's not a good place to be.
So I think if we're going to sum this up, it's, at least for us, I think the things that we're going to try to do to get you out of this funk and
prevent me from
getting into it is find time for fun.
Yeah.
I think continuing to talk to somebody, I think, is really important. It's something we've talked about before, something that we're going to continue to do. So that's number 2.
And I have to say, I think recording this podcast is really helpful for you and I to even just talk through what are we going to do? How are we really feeling?
This is literally what we would have done without it being recorded.
I know, but now we're hopefully helping some other people too with it.
Exactly, right? And I that's kind of what I wanted this podcast to be. It's like us having like authentic conversations about things that we're going through and how are we managing it, and so that people can see the thought and the dialogue that goes into it and the value of communicating, with your partner. And
maybe if you don't have someone to talk to, this is it.
Yeah, this is
Even though it's not a two-way dialogue at this point.
Yeah.
If you want to reach out and
I was going to say, you can make it
you can make
it a two-way dialogue if you like. You can find us on social or email us, and we'd be very honored to provide any support that we can.
Yeah. So make time for fun.
Care talk to somebody.
Talk to someone.
Build in more breaks. Take care of your wellness. Get outside.
Sleep,
walk,
diet,
gym, exercise, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And find those boundaries for work.
Yes.
And figure out what it is that you need. And it might not be like, don't think of it as like a one and done thing. You can be like, oh, maybe I need to leave work early. maybe you try that, doesn't work, try something else. So just be willing to be like, I need to figure this out. Maybe I'm going to try to take an hour for lunch and go to the gym, or I'm going to try that. That didn't really work. Let me try something else. I take a little more frequent 10-minute breaks. I don't know. Just keep trying.
And your boundaries
things.
can always like change too. Like just because you say for now that like I'm going to take an hour every single lunch day.
Yeah.
Maybe do it for a few weeks. Then you're like, you know what? I'm feeling better. Let me change it up and do this instead. So.
Yeah. The other thing I want to do is I definitely want to get back into, I was on such a good thing with the Rooted app. Journaling, breathing, meditation. I'm gonna get back onto that this week because it was very helpful, and I gotta stop making excuses. So for me, it's walking more with Luna. I'm gonna continue to go to the gym, so I think that's gonna be important. I'm gonna schedule some time for fun because now I got the Pokemon Gold version coming, so
to look forward to. Yeah,
so I get a chance to play with that, so that's definitely gonna happen. And what was the other thing I just said?
More breaks, vacation.
No.
Oh my god.
See?
This is the burnout brain,
This is
people.
the burnout brain. I'm like, what was I?
What was I just talking about?
Like fun. It was like, yeah, walks with Luna, exercise. I don't know. I'll
We'll listen back and
I'll listen
we'll
to the podcast and
what
I'll
we
figure
said
out what
already.
it is. But that's definitely. The reflections and.
Your app.
Everyone's like yelling at me. It's like,
I know.
Just said
Just said it. Hello.
Yeah, I'm keeping this in. I don't care.
Yeah.
So that's what we're gonna try anyway. I think for like today though, I think we're gonna go to Canadian Tire.
Yeah,
which
is
fun.
Get out of the house.
I don't know what the American equivalent of that is. I don't know. Do you guys have any like really cool stores that have like literally fucking everything?
I know, yeah.
And tires? Well, if you do, then that's what Canadian Tire is. And so I used to work there when
you were a teenager.
Yeah. So I just find so much fun going in there.
And it's like almost May. I feel like it's time to start getting patio season ready.
Camping
so like maybe
gear.
maybe they're gonna have some cool stuff now.
Yeah, we'll look forward to that. Maybe go out to dinner. And then watch a movie tonight.
Yeah.
Just like relax, no work.
Well, yeah. No work tonight.
Yeah, no work tonight.
Yeah. But in between.
No.
I gotta do some studying.
You gotta do some studying.
I do.
What were we just talking about?
I know, but that's what I was just saying. I can't let it slip anymore. Like, I have to.
All right, you do that.
Just for a couple hours. I'll set a timer.
Yeah.
Focus.
And then we'll go.
And we can go to Canadian Tire first.
Okay.
But also, I don't think people care about this.
Yeah, so I'll
if
probably...
you stop listening, it's okay. So anyways, thank you all so much for listening today.
Yeah.
Again, if you have questions or comments or you need someone to talk to, please reach out to us on social media because we would love to hear from you and we wanted to build that community here. So we're on Instagram, TikTok at Reroute Reflections or on X at Reroute Podcast. If you haven't already, please subscribe on whatever platform you're listening.
Click that button.
Share it with a friend.
Yeah, definitely. And we also have our email address too.
True.
Podcast at reroutereflections.com. You can find all of that stuff and more at our website, reroutereflections.com.
Yeah.
Awesome. It was great chatting with you all. I can't wait to chat with you guys all next week to see how these plans have come into fruition. I'll tell you how far I've gotten in Pokemon Gold.
Yeah, we have accountability now with you guys.
Yeah, I love this, actually. Yeah. Awesome. It was great chatting, and we'll talk to you all next week. And remember, don't be afraid to reroute.
Bye.
Bye.